Don't Depend on Daddy is an unfiltered safe space, empowering young professionals to build independence in their 20s and beyond, whether it be personal, professional, or financial. Regardless of your age, relationship status, or job title, the most consistent person in your life is you. So join me and let's build our independence together. Enjoy! Hello and welcome back to Don't Depend on Daddy, the podcast. My name's Michela. I am your host. And today we are going to be going through my spring 2025 State of the Union. So these are my ins and outs for spring. Basically, we're having a hot girl spring, okay? And I did my 2025 State of the Union back in January. So we're just going to get a little bit more specific in today's episode for what's in and what's out for right now. Before we get into it, I'm going to run through quickly my housekeeping. First things first, as always, you can get $10 off the Personal Finance Dashboard, which is my signature money management tool, using the code podcast1. If you are new here, the Personal Finance Dashboard is the money management tool that I use. It's the tool that tens of thousands of you guys use as well. So if you're interested in taking your financial power back and overhauling your financial situation, I recommend you check out the PFD. If you're watching on YouTube, I will make sure the tour video is up in one of these corners. I can never remember which one it is. If you're looking for a simpler tool, I did recently come out with a new template called the Basic Budgeting Template. I will also make sure that the tour video for that is linked somewhere on this screen. All of the information as well is in the description in the show notes. But the Basic Budgeting Template is just exactly what the name says. It's a template to build out a pretty basic, straightforward budget. So if that is your goal, you just want to get into expense tracking and really see where your money is going, I recommend you check out that tool. If you are interested in learning more about financial management and just some financial foundations, you can check out my book. It's called Own Your Money. I don't talk about my book enough, but I did write a personal finance book. So you can get this book anywhere you buy books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Go, Indie Books, whatever. It's also an audiobook and you can read it on your Kindle. You can get it at the library. And I also have a career book. So if you have a new grad in your life or someone who's having a career crisis, or you are just going through a period where you want to rethink the role that work plays in your life, maybe get a new job or start a business, I recommend you check out Own Your Career as well. That is also available on Kindle and also available on audiobook. Last thing here is if you are enjoying the podcast and you want to see some BTS of my life, my routines, my habits, what I'm wearing, all that fun stuff, come follow the Don't Depend on Daddy Instagram page. I am going to be rebranding this into a Michela Instagram page. It will be my name as the handle instead of Don't Depend on Daddy. Haven't decided exactly when I'm going to do that, but it will be relatively soon, probably end of Q1, April 1-ish. So come join the fun if you're interested in that kind of content. And with that, let's get into it. So as I mentioned, these are my ins and outs for having a hot girl spring. You seem to love these episodes. I love making these episodes because I love lists and just talking about kind of whatever. So these are more seasonal and more specific ins and outs as we start getting some warmer weather and defrost after what has felt like a pretty long winter, at least here in the Midwest. Just as a friendly reminder, what's in and out for me might look different than what's in and out for you. That's totally fine. This is all in good fun. I would love to hear your spring 2025 ins and outs. So if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. If you are listening in your ears, come over to my Instagram and leave a comment on my ins and outs Instagram post, because I think it's fun to see what people are and are not prioritizing during different seasons. So I'm going to be super specific here based off of what I'm currently doing. I do just also want to highlight that there are a few things that are always in that I mentioned in my 2025 State of the Union that I'm not going to explicitly get into today, but I do think are important to just remember. They're always in no matter what I say. First being consuming less, and buying better. I really need to trademark that term. Second is just overarchingly being on your phone less. And third is having hobbies, because having hobbies is cool. Hobbies don't have to be intricate. They don't have to be involved, but you do have to have something that you're doing outside of work. It can be walking, it can be exercise, it can be probably stuff related to your routines, but you got to have one. So I'll leave it at that. We'll start with my outs and we will end with my ins, because I think it's always good to end on a positive. So my first out here is kind of twofold. First, it's this it girl aesthetic on TikTok because I feel like all the content that I'm getting on TikTok, and I don't hate it, but like I'm just getting kind of tired of it. All the content I'm getting on TikTok is exactly the same. It's like everyone's doing the same style of day in the life videos. Everyone's so overly curated and overly aesthetic, and like it's very girly and very pink and very just the same over and over and over again. And it's getting kind of boring. And so I really think that this it girl vibe and this overly curated, overly styled, overly aesthetic kind of vibe should be out. I think we need to bring back some personality and bring back some opinion to social media in like a positive and productive way. So that's something that I'm trying to embody and share on my own channels. Obviously, if you listen to the pod, you know that. The other layer of this is, and this is just me being like nitpicking kind of, I don't want to say mean, but just like I watch these videos and I'm like, why? The day in my life videos that are like, spend a day with me. I woke up and then I got dressed and then I made my coffee and then I went to work out and then I went to work. And it's just like, tell me something. Like, I want to hear something interesting. There's this whole thing called Unselfish Vlogs by Alyssa. I believe her name is Alyssa Chen. Her handle is Inspired Media Co. I did a consult with her like a year ago and it was super great. And basically, she talks about unselfish vlogs and how if you're going to do a vlog, you need to be talking about something that actually helps people. And I could not agree more with this because the amount of vlogs that I have seen kind of following this it girl aesthetic of just like, today I woke up and I got dressed and I went to coffee. It's like, I don't care. Like, I can see that so clearly on the screen. Maybe I'm just getting fed this kind of content, but every time I see one, I'm just like, I want to encourage people to post content. So I don't want to be overly critical, but I will just say, like, every time I see one, I just scroll past it because if the first 10 seconds are you saying, I woke up and then I did this and then I did that, like, I just am not interested. I'm not interested at all. Like, let me know if you know what I'm talking about and if you agree. Maybe it's too specific. So that's my first out, this it girl, overly curated, not sharing opinions or helpful tips kind of vibe on social media. Second is toxic productivity, because I feel like I have been working way too much. And in the winter, it's totally fine because, people are staying home. I'm having a little bit of a lull as I'm getting adjusted, not in a bad way, but like I don't have as many friends here as I had in LA. I'm still working on like nurturing the friends that I have here and like rebuilding those friendships and meeting new people, making new friendships, dipping my toes in the water with dating. So like I've not been doing as much, I feel like, as I was doing in LA. Also, it's colder here. So like it's just harder by nature to do things. And as a result, I've been working so much, which is turning into not a problem, but just like it's all consuming. And so I want to be pulling back a little bit and setting better boundaries with work. So out toxic productivity, in boundaries. Third here is using my phone after 8:30 p.m. and being like a compulsive phone checker. So I find that during transition periods in my life, which I'm going through one right now, I have been the last few months, I am a compulsive phone checker and I'm always checking my phone. It's like a really difficult habit to break. I'm not even checking for anything. It's just like, again, it's a habit. I also have this fear of like accidentally posting an Instagram story or something that I didn't mean to post. I don't know why. I've never done that before. Or like accidentally posting my break your budget Instagrams on my personal Instagram, which now that I say that, I have to, like I'm doing it right now. I'm compulsively checking to make sure I didn't do that, which I didn't. Because I never would, because I'm detail oriented, but I don't know why I convinced myself that I would have done that. So I'm really trying to set better boundaries with my phone and be better about the compulsive reaching and knowing that just because I think something doesn't mean that that's actually real. I'm sure I need to be diagnosed with something. My fourth out is not leaving the house for extended periods of time. And I think this is kind of a winter thing, especially because we've had a few periods here where it's been like quite literally negative 10 degrees for a couple of days in a row. So obviously I can't go outside if it's that cold out. And luckily in my building, we have like a lounge and we have a gym and stuff. So there's places in here where I can go. But I just think it's weird to be not going out for a few days. So what I'm trying to do is like really schedule in not only a time to leave every day, but like specific times during the week where I am working outside of the house. I've mentioned that before, but I used to only do one day. Now I'm kind of aiming for 2 days because as the weather gets warmer, I live in this walkable, accessible city in a hustling and bustling part of town. I got to get out. I've got to seize the city that I live in. And so I am setting a goal to leave the house every day, whether that be walking or going to a coffee shop or seeing a friend or some sort of social activity, but also really segmenting time during the week to work outside of the house as well. And by outside of the house, I also mean not just in the lounge in my building, because I've been using that, which I think is important, but it still doesn't count as leaving, if that makes sense. So we are not leaving the house for extended periods of time. I don't know if I said that right. You know what I mean. We're getting out, okay? And my last one here is having a scaredy cat mentality. I feel like I will convince myself to not do things or to not, like, in theory, live my life because I'm afraid. And this has to be an anxiety thing, but which I have a lot of anxiety, which I've mentioned here a lot. But I feel like I talk myself out of doing things because I'm afraid that something could go wrong outside of my control. And that could happen no matter what. And I don't think that that is a healthy way to live my life. And so part of that comes from the transition of moving to a new place. I'm still getting comfortable here. I'm getting my bearings. I'm getting settled. But it happened a lot in LA too. I think I was just really high anxiety in LA. I was scared. I didn't feel like the police would come if there was a problem. I was nervous about drunk driving. I was nervous about crime. Like, I really think I got into this mode, this defensive mode when I was living in LA, part of which was self-imposed, part of which was real. And I haven't really stepped out of it. And then, we have all of this horrible news on social media. That's also part of why I'm trying to get off my phone. I am trying to retrain my For You page, which I think probably leads into why I'm getting a lot of this it girl routine stuff, because I'm engaging with it a lot to get a lot of that like really scary, horrible news and political stuff off my For You page, because I think it's important to know what's going on. I don't think it's I don't think it's essential to be consuming it as much and as frequently as we do. I did get a comment about or a podcast review about how I mentioned that I try to keep politics out of decisions and stuff that I make. And I do that intentionally, not because it's not important, not because I don't think it can impact your life, but because it's just not healthy to be consuming that kind of stuff and allowing that kind of stuff to be so all-consuming in the way that we've allowed it to become. And I genuinely think that it has contributed to me literally being fucking afraid of everything. I can't live this way. It's not normal. And so if you want to criticize me because I choose not to talk about politics, or because I choose not to consume that, or not share opinions on that, or not talk about it from a money lens, I'm not doing it because it's not important. I'm not doing it because it freaks me out to continue going down that path. Like, it's not healthy. That's a boundary that I have to set. You can agree with it. You can disagree with it. Quite frankly, I don't care. But I did get a comment about that on my podcast reviews. It really bothered me because I just think it's taking what I mean out of context. And also, this is something that I feel strongly about. Like, if everything that you're doing and every decision you make is political, like, that's also not normal and that's not healthy. And I just think, again, it contributes to the scaredy cat mentality that I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of us, you know what I mean? Like, we all kind of feel this way, but it's just not how I want to live my life. And it's not healthy for me. So I'm really trying to like consciously and intentionally tune it out, not in a way where I'm not informed or like I don't care, but in a way where it's not impacting, like, should I leave the house today? Should I go on that date? Like, it's just not, I can't live like that. I can't. So that is like really, really out for me. I don't want to see it. I don't want it on my social media. I want to find a way to have controlled consumption in that regard so that I'm not scared of everything. Like, I have to get on a plane to go home. I can't be afraid of that. I have to go outside and live my life. I can't be afraid of that. I have to get in Ubers alone sometimes. I can't be afraid of that. Like, and I just feel like I'm constantly seeing all this stuff all the time on TikTok that's so negative. It's so negative and it's so scary and it's not healthy. So, yeah, that is like, it's so out for me. It's so out for me. And we'll leave it at that. Moving on to my ins. I have 6 of them here. First is eating protein at every meal. So I actually have a friend who is a nutritionist, and this whole thing on TikTok, maybe I'm just like I'm chronically on TikTok clearly, but I feel like I see a lot of what I eat in a day videos, high protein, and a lot of girls are eating a lot of protein. And I'm not here to say that that's not what you should be doing by any sense. I don't know your life, whatever. But I talked to my friend who's a nutritionist. She told me she knows how much I weigh, she knows what I eat, whatever. She knows what my goals are. And she was telling me that my goal should be to get about 75 grams of protein a day for what I'm trying to do, which is just sort of have enough muscle. Because I'm doing a lot of like Pilates and strength workouts. And so I want to be increasing my protein intake. I eat a plant-based diet. I have to be more thoughtful about it. So I am trying to add protein into every meal, but not have too much, because she was explaining to me how, and I don't know. So I don't want to see a podcast review about this. She was saying to me how sometimes if you eat too much protein, it just puts a lot of pressure on your liver and you basically just excrete it out anyways. So it's not really adding the value that we think it is. So all that to say, I'm trying to just add more protein into my meals without it being like everything I'm focused on is centered around protein. So protein is a big in for me. I got a new protein powder. It is the Truvani protein powder. I got the unflavored kind. It's awesome. It was a little expensive, but I would try some of the other Truvanis as well. I got unflavored just because I wanted to see like what the texture was, and also that intrigued me. I've never had unflavored protein before. It actually has no flavor. I've only used it in oatmeal. I haven't made smoothies just because it's been too cold, but I am really into like protein smoothies. So as it gets warmer, I feel like that's something I'm going to start doing. So I've been eating more protein. Truvani protein powder. The high protein tofu from Trader Joe's is a big favorite of mine. I also have been eating tempeh, which is not something that I used to really eat. So if you are also plant-based or just vegetarian and you're looking for some more protein sources, those have been sort of my go-tos as of late. Obviously beans, those never go out of style, but in terms of getting more protein or like a higher volume to hit that 75 marker on a daily basis, those are the things that I've been adding in. And I have been tracking using this tool called Chronometer. So I recommend if you are tracking specifically protein to use a tool like that. It's actually like very interesting. Number 2 is waking up 30 minutes earlier, and as it gets warmer, going outside. So I've been in a routine where I wake up early and I've just been getting right into work, which I don't hate. But in the spring, now that it's starting to warm up a little bit, I really want to get back into like my morning walks, because in LA, I used to do that every morning. I'd get up and I'd walk 2 miles. It was about 40 minutes and I loved doing that. And so as we get warmer here, I want to start adding in outside time in the morning. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I fit that in by getting up 30 minutes earlier. I've been getting up around 6:45. I've gotten into this routine where I set my alarm and I snooze it 3 times. So I'm trying to wean myself off of that and sort of embrace my Mel Robbins and use the 5-second rule and get up. But I'm going to be honest, it's been a little bit hard for me. So as things get warmer, I'm hoping that it gets a little bit easier. But in the summertime, especially like as the days get longer, I like being up earlier. And I find obviously it gets easier to get up earlier when it's not cold and dark outside. Duh. So we're embracing that this year, and I'm really holding myself accountable. I will keep you in the loop on how it goes. My third in is wearing a touch of color where I can. So I'm thinking about finding ways to add this in either with accessories or with jewelry like socks or, I don't know, bracelets or something. I just feel like I need to add a little bit of spunk to my wardrobe. I'm not a big color person in terms of clothes because I want my clothes to be multifunctional, but I'm more open towards maybe getting a cool colored bag or, like I mentioned, socks or like some funky jewelry or something to just sort of add a little bit of spice to my wardrobe, because over the last couple of months, which I've mentioned a lot here, I have really been trying to, add in or get comfortable with my style and I found my uniform and I'm wearing the clothes I have. I'm not buying a lot of things, which is important. However, I do feel like my outfits are a little bit boring, but now that I've figured out what I like to wear and like what goes together, I feel like I can get to that next level and intentionally start adding in accessories and things to up level my style. So whether this be bags or shoes or small pieces like a pop of color in my socks or a pop of color with some different earrings or a pop of color with a bag. I don't know yet how I'm going to do that, but that is something that I'm really trying to be more aware of with my clothing and bag and accessory purchases and shoes purchases going forward. So keep up with my Instagram because that's where I'm going to be sharing that. But I do feel like with spring, like it's good to add in a touch of color. What I need to do now that I'm talking through this is I need to figure out what my color palette is going to be because I tend to ebb towards like blues and stuff. So maybe I'm thinking about getting my colors done when I'm in Korea. TBD. I feel like I could also do it maybe on ChatGPT. But what I want to try to figure out is like a color scheme. So then when I'm out buying colored things, it's like, okay, everything that I'm buying that has color still like plays a part in my wardrobe. So I'm not buying tons of miscellaneous things. I feel like I ebb towards blue, but I also really like reds and deep reds. I just don't know if those suit me. Maybe green. I don't know. Again, we'll circle back on this, but that's sort of a focus of mine this spring as I'm intentionally adding things to my wardrobe. Fourth in Pinterest. I've been off of Pinterest. I am back on Pinterest. I want to be an iPad girl. I have an iPad and I've been Pinteresting in the evenings. And it's actually really helpful for outfit inspiration and thinking about, again, how I'm wearing my clothes, how I'm styling my clothes, identifying those wardrobe gaps. I know Pinterest isn't new, but I was never really using it. And now that I've used it, I really understand why and how people use it for inspo. Not even just vision boarding. I did make a vision board. I made a couple of different vision boards actually using Pinterest. But what I'm loving about Pinterest is being able to dig into photos. So like when you see a photo you like, you can then see more like photos and get more niche and more into like a specific vibe and aesthetic. And I'm finding it to be helpful with figuring out outfits, also like apartment inspiration and just like overarching color palette inspiration and all of that. So I have been doing a lot of that for winter clothes, and now I'm going to do it for spring and summer clothes because I feel like my winter wardrobe is now on lock, but my spring and summer wardrobe could probably use a minor facelift. So I'm going to use Pinterest to help figure out like, okay, what are the things that I have and what are the vibes and pictures and outfits I'm seeing with maybe a few pieces that I don't have. And then I can use that to figure out intentionally like what are the different pieces that I'm actually going to buy and from where. So I've really been enjoying Pinterest. If you have tips for like curating your Pinterest aesthetic, let me know. Fifth in, FIRE movement. So if you've been following Break Your Budget on Instagram, I have been super into FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence Retiring Early. And so I'm kind of rebranding this in my own way as becoming work optional and following this work optional revolution because when I crossed a net worth milestone, which I've mentioned a few times across my socials, I don't know if I've mentioned it here, but I crossed a big net worth milestone and now I'm kind of like, okay, is my money where it should be? Do I want to move to a different bank? I'm considering moving to SoFi. I will let you know just because SoFi kind of has like a lot of things going on with it and they have an app and it's just like, it's interesting to me. I learned about this because I did a partnership with SoFi and they sort of gave me the run through on how everything works. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that this was more than just a high yield savings account. So TBD on that. I will let you know what I ultimately decide to do in some sort of later update video. But it has me rethinking like, are my finances organized in a way where I want them to be, for one? And two, like how does earning from my business play into my financial success? Because I've just been like, oh, I just need to earn as much as I possibly can, which is still true. But like I've crossed some thresholds where if I have maybe like a down year or a consistent couple of down months, it's okay. Where in the past, I would get really into my head about that. So what I'm trying to figure out is how much money do I actually need to earn to reach these different financial thresholds? And to do that, I have to run the numbers. It's been very difficult for me to find a financial independence calculator that's clear because there's so many different types. There's traditional fire, which is like being able to retire at 65. There's coast fire, which is you've hit a threshold in your investment or in like retirement accounts where you don't have to invest anymore. There's barista fire where you work part-time, which I'm very interested in. There's fat fire, there's lean fire. Like I put a guide up on my Instagram, so you can go back and look at that. I'm starting to document this whole fire journey as part of a series on Break Your Budget, but fire is like a huge in for me right now. I have lots of content going on about it, but I'm really interested in the financial independence of it all. And I feel like I tuned this out for a little while because I thought that fire was like a movement about extreme frugality. And I also never really considered retiring early because I feel like I always am going to want to work one way or another. I guess we'll see how my life circumstances change because, as I've mentioned, I would like to get married. I'm speaking that into the universe. And, you know, when you get married, things change, right? So I don't know what that looks like quite yet. But ultimately, let's say that never happens, which hopefully that isn't my reality, but it could be. If that never happens, at least I know I'm financially independent. So really all this to say, I am working on figuring out specifically what those numbers are for financial planning, but also for business planning. So I'm building out a spreadsheet for that. More to come. I'm really excited about it and I'm like really into it right now. My last in for this spring is finding a new social hobby and actually signing up for it. So in LA, I was really into tennis and I was taking tennis lessons. And what I'm finding here in Chicago is that since I don't have my car, especially in the winter, it's been kind of challenging for me to get around because I went to sign up for tennis lessons, but the tennis court is like in an obscure part of town where really the only way that makes sense for me to get there is to Uber. And it's like, okay, I'd be paying $100 for a tennis lesson and then $50 for Ubers. It just felt like kind of excessive and expensive. So I'm potentially exploring some alternate social hobbies. If you have suggestions for me, let me know. I would like to get into tennis in the summer. I feel like there will be more options in the summer because there's more tennis courts that are outside. So I'm going to explore that. But I also would be open to joining like a pickleball league or taking a ceramics course or something. I just need to find a hobby, and I don't mind paying for it, but I just need to find a hobby that gets me out of the house and around other people because I want to meet more people. I want to be social. I want to be out and about, like I mentioned. And I find that a lot of my hobbies are solo hobbies, which isn't a problem, but I'm too comfortable being by myself. Like I need to be pushing myself to be around other people too. So I would love to find a new social hobby. Hobbies are always in, but there are different types of hobbies, right? There are at-home hobbies, there are solo hobbies, there are social hobbies, there are out-of-the-house hobbies. So I've been doing Pilates and that feels like an out-of-the-house hobby, but it's not necessarily a social hobby because I'm finding it's not like I'm talking to people and forming, relationships at Pilates classes. Like you kind of go to the class, you're around other people. Maybe there's a little bit of small talk, but not a ton. So tennis, for example, is like you're meeting people, you're talking to people. It's a little bit of a different vibe. But I just don't know what other options there are. I'm not really huge into intramural sports. I don't want to play volleyball or anything like that. But beggars can't be choosers. I'll keep my mind open to it. Pickleball, I'd be open to, although I'm not competitive. So I don't know. If you have suggestions, let me know, especially if you're in Chicago and you have ideas or you've done something that you've enjoyed, let me know. Leave a comment if you have a social hobby or like a league or something you're involved in that you enjoy, because I need ideas. But anyways, those are my ins. Those are my outs. I hope you found this interesting. If you have an in or an out to add, let me know. And with that, I will catch you in the next episode. So thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave me a review. Make sure to follow me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next week.